Ready? Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to continue the fourth chapter of the Perakim, the introduction to Avot by Maimonides. Continue from where we left last week in the middle of the fourth chapter. Just to remind what the fourth chapter is about, we said the Nefesh, right? We're discussing the Nefesh, the structure of the Nefesh, and the fourth chapter deals with how to heal a Nefesh, what causes it to be sick, and how to heal it. And we said, all the midot that a person has, right? Let's say good midot, they point to a healthy Nefesh. And a sick nefesh is a nefesh that has bad midot. And how do you correct those midot? What is a bad midah? Well, we said all the midot are kind of like on a spectrum, right? There's two kitzavot. So there's two, what's the word? Two extremes to every midah, right? Each one of those extremes is bad. The right midah, the correct midah to have is to have a balanced midah, balanced nefesh. A balanced nefesh is a nefesh built of a balanced midot, right? He's not too stingy, and on the other hand, he doesn't spread his money everywhere, right? He's not, he doesn't get angry all the time. On the other hand, he does feel things. He does feel shame when things happen. So a person who balances those midot, and then we were discussing how to correct your midot. How do you correct your nefesh? Well, we said, if you're leaning too much towards one extreme, it's not enough to practice the middle midah, which is the correct one, in order to heal your nefesh. You have to practice the opposite extreme until you acquire or become more familiar, or becomes more of a habit to behave in that extreme. And by doing that, you come back to the middle midah, right? Okay, so the one's going to say, all right, well, why don't I always just go in the opposite midah of my natural inclination? And we said, no, this isn't what the Torah wants. It says, V'zot HaTorah, right? This Torah that we have, this Torah, which is complete, which is perfect, who makes us perfect, right? As it says in Tehillim by David HaMelech, he who knows the Torah, it says, Torat Adonai Temima Meshivat Nafesh, right? The Torah of Kadosh Baruch Hu is perfect. It's complete. Meshivat nafesh. It settles your nefesh. It settles your mind. Edut Adonai ne'emana. Right. The testimony of God is trustworthy. It's stable. Mahkimat peti. It makes the ignorant wise, and that is also something that alludes to a healthy nefesh. A healthy nefesh is the nefesh that is happy. A healthy nefesh is the nefesh that is open to receiving wisdom from God. It says this Torah, this perfect Torah that guides us in the proper behavior, lo zachara mizeh davar. It didn't mention any of this, going out, living in caves, always, always fasting, depriving your body of food, depriving your body of sleep, as monks do. The Torah doesn't want us to behave this way. It wants man to be like a natural man, and naturally always follow that middle path. Right? He eats what he's allowed to eat, balancedly, right? Moderately. And also drink. You don't have to don't be an alcoholic, and don't be, completely, don't touch any alcohol at all. Unless, of course, you have a specific problem with that. He says, no, but the Torah wants a person to be able to enjoy a glass of wine, right? ישתה מה שיש לו לשתות בשיווי, balanced, moderately, ויבעול מה שמותר לו לבעול בשיווי, and to have relations between man and a woman, but do it moderately. וישכון במדינות ביושר ובאמונה, and he should settle the world, right, בסדק ומשפט, right, justly and straightforwardly, לא שישכון במדבריות ובהרים, and that man shouldn't be settling down in the deserts and in the caves, but building cities, building communities, and to settle the world in that way. And not that he wears these uncomfortable clothes like the monks do, and not to harass his body. As it says in our tradition, right? We have the mitzvot of the Nazir. A Nazir, he's not allowed to drink wine. There's certain things he's not allowed to do. He's not allowed to cut his hair. It says, right? When he finishes his Nezirut, it could be Nezirut for 30 days, it could be for a year. When he finishes his Nezirut, it says, and he should atone for himself. He brings a korban to atone for himself, for transgressing his nefesh. What does that mean, for transgressing his nefesh? What did he do? It says, Amrudit Botenu. He says, the Chachamim said in explaining this pasuk, V'chi al eze nefesh hatazeh. What nefesh did he transgress against? El al shesier asmo min hayayin. It says, because he forbid himself from enjoying wine. This is a sin to the nefesh. It's a transgression against the nefesh. It says, V'halo devarim kal v'chomer. He says, kal v'chomer, right? As it mi shesier asmo min hayayin tzarich kapara, amsaer asmo mikol davar v'davar al achat kama v'chama. He says, he, the Nazir, who forbid himself, abstain from wine, he needs to bring a korban for kapara, for transgressing his nefesh. Someone who deprives himself of sleep, deprives himself of food, he says even more so he needs to bring a korban. He's transgressing his nefesh at a much, much higher level. So, and the Nazir is considered to be kadosh, and he still needs to bring a korban for atonement when he's finished his Nazirut, because he made himself abstain from drinking wine. ובדברי נביאנו וחכמי תורתנו ראינו שהיו מכוונים על השיווי ושמירת נפשם וגופם. Right? And we see the Nevi'im and we see the Chachamim, they are always fine-tuning themselves, they're always directing themselves to living a moderate lifestyle. על שהתחייבם התורה, וענה השם יתברך על יד נביאו למי ששאל לסום יום אחד בעולם אם יתמיד, אם לאו. Right? And we already see in the Nevi'im, they come to Zechariah and they say, well, we've been practicing right now, we rebuilt the second temple, we have been fasting all of these fasts all this time, but now that we rebuilt the temple, do we need to continue fasting? ואומרם לזכריה הנביא, and this is what they said, האפקה בחודש החמישי הנזר כאשר עשיתי זה כמה שנים. It says, shall I on the 5th month, should I still continue to weep, to fast? And he said to them, וענה אותם, כי שמתם וספות בחמישי ובשביעי וזה 70 שנה, הצום צמתוני אני. So are you doing the fast for me? וכי תאכלו וכי תשתו. It says, and if you were to eat, and if you were to drink, הלא אתם האוכלים ואתם השותים. This is for yourself, it's for your own nefesh. And then what does he direct them to do? He doesn't say fast or don't fast. He doesn't give them a clear-cut answer. ואחר כך ציווה אותם ביושר ומעלה לבד. He directed them to behave properly. The point of the fast is to remind you how to behave. Don't fast for the sake of fasting. God doesn't need your fast. Lo bitzom, right? Not for fasting. This is what he says. Ko amar Adonai Sevaot lemor, mishpat emet shefotu. He says, judge justly. V'chesed, V'rachamim asu ish et achiv. Right? And practice, behave with chesed, with mercy. V'rachamim. Ve'almana v'yatom ger ve'ani al ta'ashoku. It says, take care of the widow, take care of the orphans, take care of the weak and the poor in your society. Don't think badly about your neighbors and about your friends. That is what God wants from you, not your fast days. And then he said, Som harvi'i, v'som hamishi, v'som hashvi'i, v'som ha'asiri, yeh levet Yehuda l'sason u'simcha u'mu'adim tovim. Right, he says all these fast days, what we refer to as the minor fast days, right? Yud Zayin B'Tamuz, Asara B'Tevet. Says even Tisha B'Av. All of these fast days are eventually going to be completely annulled. No one's ever going to fast them anymore. Not only that, they're going to be happy days for the Jewish people. Mu'adim tovim. It says v'ha'emet v'hashalom ihavu. And what you should love, what you should be aspiring for always, are these two things: v'ha'emet, truth, v'hashalom, and peace. And what does that mean? V'ha'emet v'hashalom ihavu. He says, Vida, you should know, V'ha'emet, truth, Hena ma'alot ha'sichliyot. These are your intellectual virtues. Why? Because they're truths, they don't change, they're all, the emet means founded, means grounded, it means yatziv, stable. So he says, Ha'emet, these are your intellectual virtues. Because they don't change. They're constant. As we already mentioned in the second chapter, V'hashalom, peace, these are your characteristics, right? Those virtues. Because these characteristics that you have that are perfected, this is what brings peace to the world. So he says, it's not a matter of fasting. It's not that God wants you to torture your nefesh. We do this now on these dates, right? To remember our sins and to course correct our nefesh, right? To do teshuvah. But the end goal is not the sake of the fast itself. It's in order to instill in us emet, v'shalom, ehavu. And one day, once we rebuild the third temple, we're not going to need these fast days in order to bring that. I mean, ha'emet v'shalom is what's going to build the third temple, is what's going to bring redemption to us as individuals, as a community, as a nation, and as humanity. V'ha'emet v'hashalom yehavu. Says, and I'm going to go back now to the point of this chapter. V'ashuv el kavanati, right? I'll go back to what I'm intending to explain to you. She'im yomru elu hamiddanim ba'umot ma'anshe toratenu, right? So someone will come and say he's they call him the Jew Buddha, right? He behaves like a monk. He's a Jewish person, behaves like a monk, right? And he says, שאיני מדבר אלא בהם שהם אינם עושים מה שעושים אותו מטריחות גופותם, right? That they, they oppress their bodies, ופיסוק הנאותיהם, and they abstain from any earthly goods. אלא על דרך הלימוד לכוחות הנפש. They only do it as a way for training. This is what they're going to say. I'm learning from the monks how to behave in the strenuous way. Why? It's because my nefesh is a little bit out of balance, and I'm trying to bring it back, al derech haripui, as a mean of medicine to heal my nefesh. Right? As we said, that the Hasidim, the early Hasidim, they used to always stay a little bit on the, say, lifni mishurat hadin, not exactly on the center, but a little bit leaning towards the more altruistic midah. כפי מה שבארנו בזה הפרק, as we previously explained earlier in the chapter, שראוי שיאדם כן, זוהי טעותיהם. This is their mistake. כאשר הבאר. וזהו, שהתורה לא אסרה מה שאסרה, ולא סיוותה מה שסיוותה, אין מפני זאת הסיבה. He says, all the restrictions in the Torah and everything the Torah commanded us was for this purpose exactly, to keep us not exactly in the middle, but to train us to behave a little bit more nifni mishurat hadin. רצוני לומר, I'll explain, he says, I want to explain, כדי שנתרחק מן הצד האחד יותר על צד ההרגל, so we acquire the habit, we'll call the more altruistic habit to be, let's say, a little bit more generous than the exact middle, right? Or a little bit more, in control of our ta'avot than the exact middle. שאיסור המאכלות האסורות כולן, right? All of the restrictions of kashrut, ואיסור הבעילות האסורות, and all the restrictions in a relationship between man and woman, והזרה לקדשה, right? And forbidding completely prostitution, ומה שצריך בכתובת אישה וקידושה, and that when you marry a woman, you have to do it with a ketubah, and you have to do it with kiddushin, ועל כל זה, אינה מותרת תמיד. And even so, even after you marry her with ketubah and kiddushin, אבל תעשר בעת הנידות, והרי is still not always available for you. There are times when she's nida, times after birth, that you can't be with a man and a woman can't be together. ועם כל זה, when with all this, גזרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, למעט המשגל ומנעו ביום, and they still have other restrictions that the Hachamim brought on top of that, כמו שבארנו בסנהדרין, זה כולו אמנם סיוונו השם יתברך להתרחק מקצה רוב התאווה ריחוק גדול. All this is already built into the Torah itself to bring us a little bit more further away from Baal Ta'ava and lean a little bit more towards, we'll call it the more altruistic side. ולצאת מן המצוות, not be exactly in the middle. אל צד היעדר הרגשת הנאה מעט, right? To the end where you're not as attached to your bodily pleasures, עד שתתחייב ותתחזק בנפשותנו תכונת הזהירות. It says, and so too, with all the mitzvot of the Torah, וכן כל מה שבתורה, כנתינת המעשרות, giving a tenth of your income, the haleket, right? And when you collect the fruit and the vegetable from your fields that you leave apart, and the things that you drop, right? That you leave for the ani, you don't go back to pick up every single piece, and then you leave a portion of your field. It's called the pe'ah, that you leave it for the poor. And so to the shemitah, tzedakah, and when you're giving charity, it says demach soro, right? How much charity do you give? Well, it depends who the person is. If the person was very wealthy, and he lost all of his possessions, and he was regular to a certain standard of living, you have to make him feel that he's not completely lost everything. So you give him a little bit more tzedakah than someone who's always been poor. That's the halacha. Ze kullo, all of this, karov mitron tov levav, ad shnitrachek miktzeh hanevela richuk gadol. All these mitzvot come to take us a little bit more, right, towards the altruistic side and not the exact middle midah. ונתקרב לקצה יתרון טוב לבב, עד שיתחזק לנו לב טוב, until we acquire the midah of לב טוב. ובזאת הבחינה, בחנו רוב המצוות. And in accordance to this understanding, to this concept, right, learn all the mitzvot. All the mitzvot, they fall into these categories. תמצאנה כולן, you see that all of them, שהן מלמדות ומרגילות כוחות הנפש. All of the mitzvot come to help us acquire these right midot, Same way that the Torah forbade us from taking revenge against each other. And this is actually blood revenge, murdering someone who killed someone. Right? These are the mitzvot. Lo tikom velo titor. Don't take revenge. Azov ta'azov. When you see someone that you hate, and he's struggling in the middle of the way. I don't know. He has a flat tire on the highway. Says stop and help. Hakem takim imo. Says hakem takim imo. Together with him, you help him change his tire. Why? This is so that you're able to overcome your anger and your hatred towards your friend. And the more you do these things, or your enemy, so your personal enemy, right? The more you do these things, the closer you become with him, and the more you suppress or you eradicate that midah of taking revenge, of anger, of hatred towards your fellow Jew. Right, until you bring that anger down, you bring down the flames. So too, you find an avedah of someone that you hate, you have to return it. These things come to bring down the fires, right, of hatred between two Jews. And so too, and also it eradicates being greedy. Right, that you should stand up when the elderly come in and you show them respect. Right, kibud horim, honoring your mother and your father. And the mitzvah to listen to the instruction of the hachamim. All this tasur tichunat ha'azut. Ha'azut is the chutzpah, where you think you know best. No, you have to practice these mitzvot, and by practicing these mitzvot, you get more tagiat tichunat haboshet, right, where you have more humility in relation to others, and you're open to learning from them, and that's how you perfect your midot. And he also gave us mitzvot to take us away from being overly shy. Somebody wrongs you, you don't just bite your lips, you don't just keep it to yourself. Says you need to rebuke him, or you need to tell him that he did something that insulted you, that he did something that he wronged you. He may not even be aware. It says the rest of the pasuk, and that you shouldn't sin for his sake. What does that mean? Well, by not telling him, and you are now holding in this anger, this grievance that you have against your friend for wronging you, right? You are now doing an avon of holding on to anger. It says, right? Rebuke him, tell him that he wronged you, that he did something wrong. Also giving him a chance to apologize. Not to be afraid of anybody, right? If someone, if you're sitting in court, you are a judge, and one very powerful person comes in, and another one, and he has a dean, right? He has a court case against someone who is much weaker than him. So, well, this powerful person, if I don't judge him favorably, I don't know, he may exercise some of his power and get me removed from my position. It says, "Lo tagunu mipnei ish." Don't be afraid of anybody. It says, it comes to teach you to have courage even in the face of a powerful person. All these things are to make you, in the end, bring you as much as possible closer to the middle, to the balanced midot. And when an ignorant person comes along and he tries to bring on all these extra stringencies that the Torah doesn't require, right? The Torah is already directing us in a balanced lifestyle. And a lot of the extra isurim that we have in the Torah come to already bring us a little bit from that middle to the more altruistic side in order to keep us as balanced as possible, because God knows our nature, and the Torah is coming to address that nature and help us correct ourselves. So when an ignorant person comes, right, he's not a Hakam, he doesn't understand the Torah, he doesn't, and he's trying to bring on all these extra humrot, all these extra stringencies that the Torah does not require, and the Chachamim never asked us to do. Moshe Yesod HaMa'achal VaHamishteh, he says, no, all alcohol is haram. I'm not drinking any alcohol anymore. I'm not eating any chocolate. All these things that people like, I don't want to have any of that anymore, right? Because I want to be, I want to be a holy person. This isn't matin for a holy person. Musaf, extra, right? All these extra stringencies. The Torah already forbade us from eating a lot of things and drinking certain things, and he's coming and adding, right? Or he wants to add extra stringencies to a relationship between man and woman. Like, I'm a priest and I'm never getting married, I'm never going to be with a woman. It's just, the Torah never required that. And he's going, all his possessions, he's going to give away to the poor, or lehekdesh, or to give it, or to sanctify to the mikdash, or sanctify to the Beit Knesset. Musaf al mashib Torah, al hekdeshot ve'al tzedakot. More than what the Torah requires you to give tzedakah, and more than what the Torah requires you to give, to donate to the Beit Knesset or to the mikdash. Right? And what he's doing is he's behaving badly. He thinks he's behaving well, but he's behaving badly and doesn't realize. And he's going to bring himself to the opposite extreme. And that is going to give him a bad midah. And many times these people, that they don't realize how that affects them. It makes them a lot more serious and strict people that it could be very difficult to get along with. People who add extra stringencies, extra isurim, extra humrot, they become very difficult people. And they become completely out of balance. And the Hachamim, they have a special saying regarding this kind of behavior. Lo shamati klal yoter nifla mimenu. Says, I've never heard any general rule as beautiful as this. And this is in the Talmud in the Western Talmud. That's what they refer to as, what we today refer to as the Yerushalmi Talmud. It says Bagmara Divnei Ma'arava, the Perek Teshi'im in Niddarim, in the 9th chapter of Ilchot Niddarim. Niddarim, remember, is someone makes an oath, swears or vows to not enjoy certain things. He says, I am never, or for the next month, I will not eat chocolates. He makes a neder, he has to follow through with that neder, right? So the Chachamim, it seems, when you read the things that they say, on the one hand, the Nazir is referred to as Kadosh. It says Knezer Elohav al Rosho. He has like a crown of his God on his head. On the other hand, when he finishes his Nezirut, he has to bring a korban to atone for abstaining from wine. Right? So what is the Hachamim? What is their relation to these nedarim? It says Diber bignut hamekablim al atzmam shevuot nedarim ad sheyisharu ke'en asurim. He says, so the Hachamim, that they see people who are swearing, taking oaths on themselves, it's as if they're kind of like living in a prison. Amru b'zeh halashon, this is what they say. Amar Rav Idi b'shem Rabbi Yitzchak. Right, Rav Idi says in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, Lo dayecha מה שאסרה תורה, אלא שאתה עושה עליך דברים אחרים. He says, isn't it enough what the Torah already forbade you from doing, that you need to forbid yourself other things as well? Says the Torah, we have 613 misvot, right? Why are you adding to 613 misvot? Isn't that enough for you? Are you trying to be more holy than the Torah? It says, Lo daicha ma she'asera Torah. It's not enough what the Torah already forbids you from doing, from eating, from enjoying, right? That you are going to also add extra humrot to your life. You're going to forbid even more things. וזה העניין שזכרנו בשווה בלא תוספת ובלא חיסרון. And this is what we've been discussing, right? This is exactly the point the Hachamim are making in that one concise sentence. They basically summarize what I'm trying to say throughout this entire fourth chapter. The Torah comes to direct you, to instruct you how to behave properly. It gives you already all sorts of humrot to behave properly, to bring you a little bit to that more altruistic side. And there is no need to accept upon yourselves extra humrot that the Torah and that the Chachamim never required of you. הנה נתבאל לך מכל מה שזכרנו בזה הפרק. So here you see, so I already explained to you everything that we've mentioned in this chapter. שצריך לכוון את הפעולות הממוסעות, that you need to direct your nefesh to acquire that middle midah by acting, by behaving, or doing the actions that are moderate. ושלא ישמהן אל קצה מן הכסבות, and that he shouldn't misdirect them to one of the extremes. אלא על צד הרפאות, unless it's for a specific healing purpose. You have a specific weakness towards sugar, let's say, or you have a specific weakness towards alcoholism, and so you want to correct that and go ולעמוד כנגדו בהפכו, right, and to behave in the opposite way until you balance yourself again. כמו שאדם היודע במלאכת הרפואות, same way as a doctor, someone who is who understands medicine, כשיראה מזגו נשתנה מעט שינוי, when he sees that his body, the balance in his body is a little bit off, right? לא ישכח ולא יניח אחורי. He's not going to let that misbalance carry on. He's going to pay attention to it and heal it right away. If it catches it early on, right, then he could prescribe some extra rest. If he neglects it and lets it build up, he may need to go and take prescription medicine. And if he neglects it long enough, he's going to require himself to need much stronger medicine. Right? So he says, no, be like a doctor that understands his body and how it behaves. He sees it going out of balance and he right away takes care of it. Right? When he sees it going a little bit off balance, he's not going to neglect it and he's not going to procrastinate. He's not going to let it build up until he needs a strong medication. He's going to take care of it right away. Right? And when he realizes that a certain organ or a certain limb, a certain body part is weaker now, right? So he's going to take care of it right away. I don't know, maybe he'll bandage his arm early on so that it doesn't catch an infection, right? Because he has some sort of wound over there. So he'll take care of it right away and not wait till he needs heavy medication to fight a bacteria. ישמרו תמיד ויתרחק מדברים המזיקים לו ויכוון למה שיועיל לו עד שיבריא העבר ההוא, until that limb or organ becomes healthy again. או עד שלא יוסיף חולשה, or at least prevent it from getting worse. כן האדם השלם, so too, the perfected man, person striving for perfection, to make himself as perfect and as good a person that he can, צריך שיזכור מידותיו תמיד. He needs to always take account, take stock of his midot, וישקול פעולותיו, right? And he needs to assess his behavior, ויבחן תכונות נפשו יום יום. He needs to do, and this is also the Ramban, he advises you should do some hitbodedut, do some meditation every day, meditate, reflect on your day, take notes. How did you behave? What did you do today? Could you have reacted better to a certain situation? Analyze your behavior throughout the day and see what you could have done better. And, try to maybe simulate it in your mind. Okay, I did this today. Maybe I reacted a little bit too harsh. Let's practice. I'm going to be in that same situation. I'm going to practice being in that same situation. What could I have said better? How could I have better handled that situation? Every day you should take stock of what you did that day, how you behaved, how you reacted, in order to perfect yourself for next time. All right? וכל מה שיראה נפשו נוטה לצד קצה מן הקצוות, right? So you take stock, you take notes, write it down, right? Maybe write a journal. And you see, oh wait, over here I reacted in a way that I think that's it's too close to one of the extreme midot. Yemaher barefuah. He says right away, take care of it. Right away address it. ולא יניח התכונה הרעה להתחזק בשנותו מעשרה. And he says, I did an action that wasn't right, it wasn't good. What can I do to correct that midah so that I don't repeat that bad action again? It says I think it's in Masechet Berachot, it says a person does an avirah, says 2-3 times, right? Pa'amayim shalosh gaver, right? It says the Chachamim there say, it says after 3 times hutralo, it was permitted to him. The Chachamim jump on it, says hutralo salka da'atach. What are you crazy? You think now that he did an avirah 3 times, then that means it's now permitted for him? It says no. What does that mean? Hutralo. It's his nefesh. His nefesh views this action as if it's permissible to do. He says, it's like in his mind, this is a permissible action. It's a bad action, but it's in his mind, he can do it, right? He already acquired the habit after performing an action 3 or 4 times. He already acquired the habit. And so they're telling you, take stock of your actions every day. See what midah affected that behavior, and try to perfect that midah by taking actions that will balance that midah, bring you back to equilibrium. Yimaher berefuah, right away he should address it, he should cure that midah. Velo yaniach hatechuna hara'ah, and he doesn't let that bad midah, take root in his nefesh. Yitchazek bishnoto ma'asera, by doing these bad actions over and over again. You have to be aware. As we have already explained, and he should always put before him, right? Hamidot hapechutot asher lo, right? He should be aware of the bad midot that he has, or even the imperfected midot that he has. V'ishtadel lirapaotam tamid, and he should always try to cure them. See what he can do to cure them. A situation comes out that's now an opportunity for him to practice behaving properly, not in accordance to his natural inclination towards this bad midah, right? This is what David HaMelech says, Vaya hatati lenegdi tamid. He says, my sin should always be before my eyes. Why? He says, there's certain things I want to be more aware about when these situations occur in my life, to take advantage of the opportunity to correct a bad midah that I have. This is, it's impossible for man to not have some sort of inequity. Nobody is perfect. What does that mean, that nobody is perfect? It means that we all have an opportunity to take care of a certain midah that we have, to perfect it. As we see, the philosophers, the scientists already said, it says it is impossible to find somebody, it's very improbable that there will ever be a person who is naturally perfect. All his midot are naturally all balanced. It is someone who's naturally, he's born with a perfect balance of his midot and a sharp mind, right? That's impossible. It doesn't happen. We see this a lot among the Nevi'im. He says, God says, even in his servants, right? Those serving before God, he says, Lo ya'amin. He says, they're not 100% reliable. Everybody makes sin. It says, but in his malachim yasim taholah. Right? The malachim are perfect, but the Torah wasn't given to malachim. The Torah was given to humans. The Torah was given to humans for us to work on our midot. Right? So also in Eov, it says, how can man come and justify himself before God? It's important because there is no man in the world that was ever born who was born perfect and completely balanced. Shlomo HaMelech alav shalom amar setam. And Shlomo HaMelech, he says in Kohelet, Ki Adam en Sadiq Ba'aris Asher Ya'aseh Tov V'lo Yeheta. There isn't one righteous person in the world that does only good and never sins. ואתה יודע שאדון הראשונים והאחרונים, and we all know that the master of all the Nevi'im, the early Nevi'im and the later Nevi'im, the most perfect human to ever lived, Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, כבר אמר אליו השם יתברך, God already said to him, יען לא האמנתם בי להקדישני לעיני בני ישראל. He was punished for getting angry at the Jewish people, at Bnei Israel. It says, Yan, because lo he'emantim bi, says you didn't have, like what, complete faith? You didn't fully believe in me, lahakdisheni. Why is this in lo he'emantim bi? Right, look at what it says here in Eov. It says, Hen ba'avadav lo ya'amin. Who is the greatest servant of God? It says, Eved Ne'eman karata lo. You refer to Moshe Rabbeinu as a reliable servant. Right? It says, Hen ba'avadav lo ya'amin. It says, even they're not flawless. Right? Ba'avadav, his servant. And it says here about Moshe, it says, Ya'an lo he'emantem bi. It's talking about Moshe and Aharon, that you didn't have this flawless faith in me. להקדישני לעיני בני ישראל, על אשר מריתם את פי, למי מריבה. Right, this is מי מריבה, when Moshe took the staff, and he was told to take the staff and speak to the stone, so water comes out, and he got angry, and he smacked the stone, and the water came out. Right? על אשר לא קידשתם אותי בתוך בני ישראל, that you didn't sanctify me before the Jewish people. What does that mean that you didn't sanctify me? It says, "V'chet'o alav Hashem." What was his sin? Shenata letzad echad min hakesavot min ma'alat hamidot. That he leaned too much towards one of the extremes, והיא הסבלנות, כאשר נטה לצד הרגזנות, right? When he became angry, he went a little bit towards the extreme of anger. He said to them, Shim'unna hamori. When he addressed the Jewish people, he said to them, listen up, you transgressors. Says that's not the way that you should be speaking to the people, right? You shouldn't speak to them angrily like that. God got mad at him for getting angry, for losing his temper in front of the people. Adam kamohu, that a man of his stature, of his perfection, to show anger lifnei adat Israel, in front of the entire nation, b'makom she'en ra'ui bo hakas. He says they had a legitimate claim. They wanted to drink water. Why are you getting angry at them? He shouldn't have gotten angry. For that, Shim'una Hamorim, that opening statement that he said to the people, that he showed this anger, that was a sign of an imperfection in his nefesh, a sign that he still has anger, and God was very, very careful to punish him for that. Just because he is of such high status, because he is a Navi that everyone looks up to, that everyone wants to imitate and emulate his actions and his behavior, and this is a bad example that he's setting, that is the Hilul Hashem. He's teaching the people that it's okay to be angry also in a place where you shouldn't have been angry. Everyone studies the words of Moshe. Everyone studies the behavior of Moshe. Everybody wants to be like Moshe. And right, and by learning from Moshe, by following his instruction, we are expecting to succeed in this world and the next, to get an Olam Haba. So how can we learn this anger from him? This is a bad action. This is a bad midah. And it comes from a bad midah in the nefesh. And he says that you went against my instruction, as I'll explain, Moshe, when he was talking to the people, he wasn't addressing ignoramuses. Not people who don't have any virtue. Right? We say that when they crossed the sea, the Chachamim said that right, the maiden passing, right, the lowliest social class that was there, right, the vision, the revelations that they got there was even greater than what Yehezkel, one of the greater of the Nevi'im, saw. So he says he's addressing a nation of people that the lowliest of them is like at the level of the later Nevi'im of Am Yisrael. And he's getting mad at them for no reason. And everything that Moshe does and everything that Moshe says, the people are going to notice, or they're going to take note, and they're going to try to emulate. Right? So when they see that Moshe is getting angry, they're not going to say that Moshe, he's imperfect. He's the greatest Navi to ever live. This is probably proper behavior. And it's only because Moshe knows that God is mad at us for asking for water that Moshe is mad at us. Otherwise, Moshe wouldn't be mad because Moshe is perfect, right? So he says, no, this was the Hilul Hashem. Says Moshe's actions need to reflect, or Moshe's words also need to reflect the message coming from God. The only way we have to know what God is thinking is by his number one prophet. And so if Moshe is angry at us for asking for water, it means that God is angry at us for asking for water. And that was not the case. ואנו לא מצאנו שהשם יתברך כעס אליו בזה העניין. And we never saw that God was angry at the people for asking for water. אבל אמר, he said, קח את המטה והקל את העדה. He says, take your staff and gather the people and give them water. They're asking for water, give them water. God was never mad. So why are you, Moshe, mad? This was a Hilul Hashem. This pointed to a bad midah that Moshe, even the greatest, the most perfected human to ever walk the earth, also was not 100% perfect. All right, and we already digressed a bit. We ventured a little bit off from the main purpose of this chapter. However, we addressed one of the big questions in the Torah, that there's many commentaries on this question. Many asked, what is the sin that Moshe did? Right? And you go evaluate the different pirushim, evaluate the commentary that I give, evaluate the other commentaries, and figure out for yourself, see which one fits best for you. All right, and I'm going to come back to the main point, summarize. When a person always evaluates his actions, and he's always fine-tuning his actions to be balanced, to go in the center path, and he will be on a higher level, or the highest level that man can achieve. And in this way you come closer to God by perfecting your nefesh, by perfecting your midot, always taking stock and seeing how you can improve. This is how you come closer to God and receive his tuvo, his greatness. What is his greatness? His shefa coming down to you, which could be wisdom, which could be prosperity, beracha. And this is the best form of worship of God. Always be perfecting your nefesh and fine-tuning your actions. And we already mentioned this previously in previous classes and previous course as well. It says this lesson of the Hachamim, this is what they said, Kol Hashem Orchotav u'mashgiach bahem zoche v'ro'eh b'shu'ato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anybody who evaluates his ways, his behavior, his actions, zoche v'ro'eh b'shu'ato shel, he will see redemption of God. What does that mean? The redemption from God? Right, as it says, V'sham derech ar'enu b'yesha Elohim. And there is a path that we will see, that will be revealed to us, to the redemption of God. What is it? V'sham derech, there is a path. It says, Al tikri v'sham, don't say sham as in there, ela v'sham v'hashima. But it's the same word, right? With a different meaning. One means there, sham, and the other means like shuma, evaluation. It says, what does it mean? B'sham derech ar'enu. Says, not there is the way. However, evaluate your ways in order to receive this redemption from God. fine-tune your ways, evaluate every day your behavior, your actions, see how you can improve, and by improving them, right, you come closer to God and you receive His hashgacha, you receive wisdom from God, you see all these things. The sum total of all of it is redemption of God. הוא שיעור והסברה, right? וזה העניין אשר פירשנו בזה הפרק כולו בשווה, and this is what I was aiming for in this entire fourth chapter, וזהו שיעור שראינו שצריך בזה העניין, and this is what needed to be taught and studied in this matter. ושם דרך הראינו, we've said this already in a couple of classes, it's very, very important thing to understand, ושם דרך הראינו בישע אלוהים, right? Anyone who always, כל השם ונחותיו, anyone who evaluates his actions, evaluates his behavior, הוא משגיח בהם, right? And he corrects them, and he's aware of them, זוכה ורואה בישועתו של הקדוש ברוך. He will bring redemption, first of all, to himself, to his community, to his family, to his community, to humanity, and bring redemption to the world. ושם דרך הראינו בישע אלוהים. Any questions?
I wonder.
Yes?
I just want to know, because in the Torah, I don't see. I read that Hashem told Moses to strike the rock, and I don't really see the point where
Right, so,
Moshe.
so there were two accounts, right? Early on, at the beginning, Moshe was instructed to strike the rock, and he struck the rock, and that was fine. Later on, there was another similar event where, again, they didn't have water, and they came asking Moshe for water, and Moshe was instructed to take the staff and not strike the rock, to speak to the rock. This was supposed to be, this was an opportunity for a lesson, meaning when the Jews first came out of Egypt, they were still entrenched in pagan thought, right? They're coming out of a society of magicians. Magicians, they use all these artifacts and objects to do their magic. And so God said, okay, so take your staff, the staff that you did many miracles with, right? You split the sea with it. You turn the Nile into blood with it, right? Take the staff and strike the rock, and water will come out. However, after spending a lot of time in the desert, right, this was now an opportunity to educate the people that it's not the staff. The power isn't in the staff. It's not in striking. It's in your mind. It's in speech. He says, take the staff. Everyone's going to be expecting you to strike, to use the staff. He says, no, but you're not going to use the staff. You're going to speak. You're going to use your words. Because your words, that's where the real power is, not in the staff. And that was like a missed opportunity. Says maybe it showed a lack of faith maybe in God, or maybe more, it was a lack of faith in the Jewish people, that maybe they're not prepared for this lesson. Maybe Moshe didn't think they were prepared, and God's saying they are prepared, right? That's also maybe a reason why Moshe's leadership had to come to an end. He wasn't prepared to lead the people in this new environment in Eretz Yisrael. So Yehoshua was appointed instead of him.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
A pleasure.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So here that you talked about two ways of improving our midot, right? One way, like what I understood, one way was like to go a little bit to the other side if we're too balanced to one side, like a little bit of like to go to the other extreme, to go back to the middle. And the other one was to do a heshbon nefesh, kind of, right? To to see what we have done right or wrong, maybe during the day, and then think about it, and then try to make it better for the next time. Is that like more or less what you meant, Bo?
Yeah, but it's not two ways. You should be doing all of it, right? So if you have a midah that needs like heavy medication, going to the extreme, the other extreme is like heavy medication. All right? Taking stock of your actions every day and paying attention to your behavior and your midot is so that you don't need this heavy medication. Is so that as soon as you detect an imbalance or an opportunity to improve and perfect yourself, you act on it right away. You don't act on it right away by behaving imbalanced in the other direction, unless you see it's a very big problem that you have, right? But if it's just something that you can improve or behave better, then you do that. It's the difference between realizing that your body needs rest and going to sleep, getting a good night's sleep, and neglecting the fact that your body needs rest, and you abuse your body until, I don't know, something happens and now you need like heavy medication. So taking stock is something you should be doing, you say bashotef, every day, right? Heavy medication is when you have a specific problem that you're trying to fix. You're already behaving in one extreme and you're trying to correct it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Raf.
My pleasure. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay, so I guess that's it for today. And Be'ezrat Hashem, inshallah, we'll meet again next week.